Hi there, this is Brian from Enlightenspeed here. Once again, we are giving you a new tutorial video on our latest rack extension, Melodramatic. Today we are trying to cover the basics of the sequencer, mainly for people who have came from a background where they haven't been using melodic inverter before, and may even be quite new to Reason as well. So we're going to start with the very basics. So let's crack on. First of all, you see Melodramatic here at the top of the stack is going to a Europa, and although you can see a matrix there, it's really just showing a wee bit of demonstration here. The matrix isn't actually plugged into anything, if you have a look at the back there. So to start off with, we're just going to give a basic introduction to the timeline here. You can see these lights zipping across here. If you're a seasoned Reason user, obviously you know matrix very well. And Melodramatic works in the same way. It's a timeline going across 2 bars, divided into 32 steps, 16 steps per bar. Now, if you haven't seen Matrix before, and you're wondering what this is, well, it's the same idea as the piano roll, but it's all divided into 16ths. So this is a full bar here at the halfway point. This is half a bar, this is a quarter, and these are 16ths. And again, Melodramatic just echoes this concept. But whereas the Matrix is outputting notes, Melodramatic doesn't. Melodramatic is strictly a processor. The notes that come through it are processed in some way by one of these algorithms, possibly by the filters, possibly by scales, and then they are output to the instrument device. In this case, our instrument device is Europa, and I picked this one out today because I wanted to do a bit of classical Midi mangling. So I had a wee look about in the various Midi libraries, see what was looking appealing to me at the time, and I thought, right, I'll give this a wee go. Picked out the Tchaikovsky's 1812 Overture, found a good loop that I could mess around with, and I thought musically it sounded very kind of like a Berlin techno kind of vibe, so I've found a patch in Europa which can deliver that kind of thing. So let's just quickly bring up the sequencer now, and this is just 4 bars of this. You have a wee look, the whole thing comes to about better part of 400 odd. So just picked out one more or less at random, and like I say, I had a very kind of Berlin techno sound to it. Let's get a wee listen to that first. We'll switch Melodramatic off for this. Mr. Peter Tchaikovsky, everyone. Delivering a techno riff that would make Jeff Mills proud. So let's switch on Melodramatic. Just going to pass everything through melodic inverter first. Filters I've just set to off there more or less. And rather than starting a particular scale, I'm going to go for chromatic so it's not changing anything. So let's just get a quick listen to it. Has kept it in chromatic. It sounds still very similar to the original, and the results are more or less the same if you try a different melodic inverter algorithm. Yeah, pretty much. Still all very chromatic sounding. So the thing to take from that is that your melodic inverter algorithms, your double interval algorithms, your asymmetric interval algorithms, they all basically just mess stuff around. Then you also have spread algorithms, which work slightly differently. They basically just move notes further away from each other, or if you invert them, they can go slightly closer. So if we look up here, we're on spread 1 just now. The amount of the spread is dictated by these 4 boxes down here. So this is spread 1, 2, 3, 4. They're all at 0 just now. So the output result is that nothing changes. Let's quickly give these a run while we move it about. That's me just dragging that around. Obviously you would typically leave the spreads just set in one place. And the milder variants tend to do you the most favours. So usually anywhere from plus 12 to minus 12. Let's say you have a couple of riffs or something like that that you're stuck with. You want to do something to mix them up a bit. But the first protocol was to use the spreads because they provide a lot of easy variation on the same theme. So that's the general gist of what the algorithms do. They either mess something about or they spread something about. And as I stated in the manual for Melodramatic, first things first, relax. Don't get caught up in what the algorithms are doing, because once you start using the randomize button and making the much more powerful combination algorithms, then it really won't matter. All you're really interested in is the output, regardless of how it works. Now I'm just going to set up a wee randomize here. From the default patch, there's very little needs tweaked. I personally tend to bring the spreads in, and that's all I do. Going to randomize everything with the exception of the scale sequencer, the number of steps, and the rate. I'm going to change the mutes and the pass-throughs so that they only go for 1 in every 4. The reason for that is that when you hit randomize, you can see that you're getting a decent amount of mutes and passes there. If we set that to just 1 in every 2, then hopefully you can see that there's a good few more there. And with there being more of the mutes, then you get less output. And if there's more passes, then you have less processes being carried out. So just to try and encourage a bit of a light on moment here for you, I'm going to set this into step mode. Step mode, the changes per step, rather than being controlled by the sequencer, are controlled by this button up here. And of course you can assign this to a MIDI controller. So we start on step 1. Any notes that come through while this is on step 1, they're altered by spread 3. In this case it's muted, so nothing will actually come out. It's not passed, so you don't need to worry about that. If it wasn't muted, if you switch off the mute group, for example, which means that the mutes don't take effect at all, it would also be going up by 2 octaves, and it would be going down by 4 semitones, and the scales we didn't randomize. Move this on to the next step. This time, because the way the randomizers worked, we're on spread 3 again. It's picked out 2 of the same algorithms. It goes minus 2 octaves, minus another 12 semitones, so 3 octaves down basically for this step. No pass on this one. There is a mute again, so it will knock them out. This being the case, it means that you will probably get best results with lower amounts of mutes and passes. And thus, rather than having it as 1 and 2, set it to 1 and 4, 1 and 5, 1 and 6, something like that. And then when you hit randomize, you get much less of them, so it won't bash it about quite as much. So we're going to go back into the sequencer mode now, and if we just have a wee look at our scale, we have randomized onto D Neapolitan major. So we do have a scale this time, it's not just chromatic. The effect, if you listened, if you remember, well, it started off sounding like this. Kind of very heavy techno sound. It sounds like this. Still sounds quite heavy techno, but if you've got a good musical ear, you can hear that the scale's quite a lot more refined. Let's change this scale again, and we'll put it into C major, just to make it a bit more obvious for most people. So musically you can hear that that heavy techno thing is gone entirely. But it's now just a case of hit randomize as many times as you want, particularly with the key and scale able to randomize. And it literally becomes a case of turning one decent MIDI loop into potentially thousands of variants of it, or thousands of complete rearrangements of it, by just pressing this button. And that's really all you need to know. That's as easy as it can get. So why don't we do a couple of variations on this? Okay, so as you can obviously hear, there is just tons and tons of possibilities with this, and it will add an insane amount of power to anyone's Reason rack. But that's us. Hope to see you around sometime soon. Take care. Bye bye.